I look like a weird park ranger. Hello guys, this is it. This is the final part of all these videos, really. This is it. This is the final culmination. So everything has happened and we're seeing, we've seen a lot of tragedy throughout the play, and this is a scene that kind of gives you a lot of tragedy in one go. Often it's been segmented slightly. One tragic thing happens here, then the next scene something tragic happens. Whereas this one, there's loads of stuff in one scene. The dog's kicking off in my neighbourhood, as you can hear. So that's good. Okay, so we start with Paris. And we see that he's actually been very, very, very emotive about Juliet's apparent death. He's known Juliet and possibly even loved her as long as Romeo has. A similar kind of amount, a couple of days basically. He is being very, very, very kind of melodramatic with it all. Now we could read into that he's not being genuine, but also maybe that he's also impulsive and he's kind of, he's part of the problem as well. We see that, he talks about how he's going to place flowers for Juliet. He's going to go every single day. He's going to strew the bed, kind of weave flowers in between and make it all beautiful for her every single day. Yeah? And that's something we probably would expect from Romeo. But Paris is saying it as well. And bear in mind, he barely spoke to Juliet. But he was chosen by Capulet. So it's almost like his love is kind of, it's kind of a joke compared to Romeo's. But his feelings are probably genuine. He also talks about this metaphor here. Look, thy canopy is dust and stones. So the bridal bed that you never got, the canopy above it is dust and stone. So obviously an irony there, and kind of a reminder that we're in a tomb, dust and stone. So they hear someone coming in and they step aside. So Romeo comes in and he is talking to Balthazar. So he doesn't want Balthazar to know what his plan is. He wouldn't want him to know that he's going to kill himself because, Balthazar would probably try and stop him. So Romeo says that he wants to descend into the bed of death and he wants to take from her dead finger a precious ring that he needs to use in dear employment. So that, he needs the ring, that's why he's going in there. If you're Paris hearing this, you're going to think, that villain Romeo's back. He's trying to defile this grave. And he's trying to steal from us. That explains why Paris does something that he does in a moment. But then down here, Romeo goes very extreme. He says to Balthazar, by heaven, so he swears on heaven itself, I will tear thee joint by joint, and strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs. The time and my intents are savage wild, more fierce and more inexorable far than empty tigers or the roaring sea. That's pretty harsh. That's a lot. It's not a civilized thing to say. He even references himself, but it's savage wild. Yeah? He says, I will tear thee joint by joint. So if you don't stand outside there and listen for people and let me know if someone's coming, I will tear you from joint by joint. Yeah? And I will put your body parts all over this churchyard. And, if you think a hungry tiger or the roaring sea is powerful, you haven't seen anything yet. Very, very kind of potent thing to say. So he is also comparing himself in terms of context to the gods. Okay? Now, he says, I am more fierce and more inexorable. So I am more stubborn, I am more immovable, I am more fierce than nature, than tigers and the sea. Yeah? So these things that are seen as ultimately powerful, almost superlative, he's saying is more than that. So it's hyperbole almost. Think about what that says about his state of mind, that he is so passionate about this that he doesn't want any disturbances, and therefore will threaten his own man to be torn limb from limb by Romeo in a very, very violent way. So the imagery there is very violent. So he says, shalt thou show me friendship, take that thou. So thank you for this, you've been a good friend, and gives him money. Now that is where Balthazar is like, oh, hang on, this is a bit weird. I don't really know what's going on here. Why is he giving me money? Alarm bells are ringing. So Balthazar says, his looks I fear and his intents I doubt. So Balthazar doesn't go out, he steps aside. So again, he's going to be aware of what's going on. Now, then we see Romeo talking about this extended metaphor, okay? He talks about the detestable maw, the womb of death. So it's that time, of course, where I show you some interesting acting, and I don't really have anything witty to say about this, so it might look like this.
Thou detestable maw, thou womb of death, gorged with the dearest morsel of the earth. Thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I'll cram thee with more food.
This is that banished haughty Montague that murdered my love's cousin, with which grief this is supposed to be fair creature died. And here is come to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will apprehend him. Stop thy unhallowed toil, vile Montague. Can vengeance be pursued further than death? Condemned villain, I do apprehend thee. Obey and go with me, for thou must die.
I must indeed, and therefore came I hither. Good gentle youth, tempt not desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. Think upon these gone. Let them affright thee. I beseech thee, youth. Put not another sin upon my head by urging me to fury. Oh, be gone, by heaven. I love thee better than myself. For I have come hither armed. For I have come hither armed against myself. Stay not, be gone, live, and hereafter say, a madman's mercy bid thee run away.
I do defy thy conjuration and apprehend thee for a felon here.
Will thou provoke me? Have at thee, boy.
Oh, I am slain. If thou be merciful, open the tomb, lay me with Juliet.
In faith I will. Let me peruse this face. Mercutio's kinsman, noble county Paris. What said my man? When my betossed soul did I attend him as we rode? I think he told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so? Or did I dream it so? Or am I mad? Hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so. Oh, give me thy hand. One writ with me in sour misfortune's book. I'll bury thee in a triumphant grave. A grave! Oh no, a lantern slaughtered youth. For here lies Juliet, and her beauty makes this vault a feasting presence full of light. Death, lie thou here, by a dead man interred. How oft when men are at the point of death have they been merry, which their keepers call a lightning before death. Oh, how may I call this a lightning? Oh, my love, my wife, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath, hath no power yet upon thy beauty. Thou art not conquered, beauty's in sight yet, is crimson in thy lips and in thy cheeks, and death's pale flag is not advanced there. Tybalt, liest thou there in thy bloody sheets? And what more favour can I do thee than with that hand that cut thy youth in twain, to sunder his that was thine enemy? Forgive me, my cousin. Ah, dear Juliet, why art thou so fair? Shall I believe that unsubstantial death is amorous, and that lean abhorred monster keeps thee in the dark to be his paramour? For fear of what? I still will stay with thee, and never for this palace of dim night depart again. Hence here I will remain with the worms that are thy chambermaids. Oh, here I will set up my everlasting rest, and shake the yoke of the inauspicious stars. For this world's weary of flesh, eyes look your last, arms take your last embrace, and lips, oh, you the doors of breath, seal with a writer's kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. Come, bitter conduct, come, unsavoury guide, thou desperate pilot, now at once run on the dashing rocks thy seasick weary bark. Here is to my love. O true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus with a kiss, I die.
The realism is 10 to none, really. Just amazing. So we start this part with an extended metaphor from Romeo. Okay, so it talks about thou detestable maw, womb of death, the morsel of the earth, the jaws. Yeah, he talks about the womb being this monster that's eaten Juliet almost. And he says, I'm going to get your rotten jaws to open with a crowbar, and I'm going to put even more food in there. So I'm going to kill myself as well in there. Okay, now this is when Paris comes in. Now Paris, unfortunately, has kind of been, you know, he doesn't know anything about the war and why the war's happening. To be honest, Montagues and Capulets probably don't know the origin. But Paris talks about how, you know, Montague is a villain, and he's trying to do some villainous shame, like he talks about. That Romeo's there to defile the grave and do some awful thing. Because, you know, Paris has been around the Capulets for the last couple of days, so he's heard about Tybalt, he's heard about the things that Romeo has done, and therefore it's just believing it. So he goes forward and challenges Romeo. Romeo later on says, puts not another sin upon my head by urging me to fury. It's almost like Romeo's possibly starting to realise that he's got an issue, that he's got some kind of flaw, that he's starting to recognise himself. You know, this is obviously foreshadowing the deaths that are going to happen in the scene, but also references back to the deaths that have happened previously. Yeah? So Tybalt and Mercutio, he clearly feels responsible for both. You know, Mercutio says to him, I was stabbed under your arm, I was hurt under your arm. And obviously Tybalt was a purposeful thing on Romeo's part. So it's an interesting thing that he's starting to self-reflect there, about character development and character perspective, that he's starting to see things possibly in a different light. You know, even just above that, he talks about, you know, tempt not a desperate man. That Romeo's mindset is so desperate and chaotic and messy right now that he's just desperate and he will do anything. My target is to be in there with Juliet and die, and if I have to kill you to do that, I will do it, but please don't make me do it. Okay? Bear in mind, he's just threatening his own friend to tear him limb from limb. So then we get, they fight, and obviously, as usual, the very limited stage directions, and it says that Paris is slain, okay, and that he dies. Now, Romeo doesn't really know who it is at first, and then when he gets closer, he sees, let me look at the face of this person I've just killed, and he realizes it's Mercutio's friend, the noble County Paris. Now, he then, you know, he references a conversation that he and Balthazar clearly had on the way from Mantua, where he says, Paris should have married Juliet, or did I dream it? Now, instead of kicking off and being all angry about it, he's actually quite calm about it. And he's quite respectful and kind of dignified. Now, we could read into that, actually, that maybe that just means that Romeo and Juliet are very, very secure in their love for each other. That he doesn't feel threatened by it at all. That, oh, you were the person that was meant to marry. That you're just kind of a piece that was moved in the way of Juliet and his love. He agrees to bury him, and he agrees to put him in the tomb as well, because he recognizes that, no, okay, you're not kind of evil in all this. You're just kind of an innocent bystander almost that happens to have been in the way of this kind of bigger idea of fate. And, you know, the prologue mentioned the kind of the tragedy that was going to happen throughout this play. As per, I'm not going to go through every single line in this speech from Romeo. There are several things that I'm not going to mention that you probably should, okay? So make sure you do read it and actually think about other parts, other semantic fields, for example, other techniques that are used, other references to other parts in the play that are worth highlighting and kind of mentioning, okay? I'm just going to pick out a few. So kind of the theme of this is that he's looking at Juliet and he's going, wow, you are so beautiful that death hasn't even touched you yet. That you are dead, and yet death has not taken the redness from your cheek or the beauty from your face. Now, we know, dramatically, that's because she ain't dead. But obviously, he doesn't know. He says that death has sucked the honey of thy breath, yet it's had no power yet upon thy beauty. Okay? And he also says, thou art not conquered. As in, wow, you are so beautiful that even death can't conquer you yet. That yes, your breath is gone, but the rest of you is not. He talks about beauty's ensign yet is crimson in thy lips and in thy cheeks. Your lips and your cheeks are still red and beautiful and kind of have blood in them. And obviously, he's not someone that thinks about his decisions. He doesn't do this. We know this. He's impulsive. So he's not going to check if she's actually dead or wait it out or get someone to check, a doctor. He's just going to go with it and just assume that she's so beautiful that death hasn't even touched her yet. Yeah? So he says that death's pale flag is not advanced. Then he notices Tybalt next to her. What else can I do to help you? Because again, he doesn't want to have killed Tybalt, and he even asks for his forgiveness there. Look, forgive me, cousin. Then we get this kind of microcosmic comment that kind of sums up the whole thing. Why art thou yet so fair? Yeah? He says, why are you still so beautiful? He doesn't understand it, but he's just seeing it as you are the ultimate, you are the absolute kind of epitome of perfection and beauty, and therefore, of course, you're so beautiful. Yeah, and obviously that rhetorical question as well that he's asking, he's almost asking Juliet, but he's also asking the gods, the fates, kind of everything. He's asking himself, why are you like this? Why is it? How could you be so amazing? He also references fate again. He says the inauspicious stars, that he feels like his fate was supposed to be being with Juliet permanently, but instead has, that's not worked out, and the stars haven't completed their mission yet, and how, they failed almost. But obviously we know that actually the stars had something different in mind, and that the stars were much more concerned with ending the war than with having them together, that they were kind of used by fate. And we're going to see a reference to that later on too. So he kisses Juliet, and then he says, "O true apothecary," after having, the poison, "thy drugs are quick." And then he says, "Thus with a kiss I die." Now that, if that doesn't sum up Romeo, I do not know what does. It is entirely symbolic of his character. That he's about the romance, and that he will do anything for it, including death. And that's it. Romeo's dead. So he's lying there next to Juliet, dead, with the kind of the vial in his hand. So the friar has now come in, and he's asking, kind of, where's Romeo? Who's in there? How long have they been in there? What's going on? And he says that he fears some ill, unthrifty thing. So he's getting a weird sense. I feel something bad has happened. And he goes into the tomb, moves towards it, and he shouts at Romeo, and then he asks, why is there blood on the stony entrance? Now, obviously, that we know that would be Paris's. And he wonders why there are kind of masterless and gory swords. So think about that as well. Masterless. Why are there these swords that have no master? Okay. Now, obviously, that just means they're not being held by someone, but also that actually both the swords are now not owned by anyone because both of the masters are now dead. So he sees Romeo dead and Paris too. And we get that reminder of that language there, lamentable, that we've seen all the way through this play. That unkind hour is guilty of this lamentable chance. And then we're going to see another piece of acting, and this is going to be the final one for these videos. So, again, nothing witty to say really, but might look like this.
I hear some noise. Lady, come from that nest of death, contagion, and unnatural sleep. A greater power than we can contradict hath thwarted our intents. Come away. Thy husband in thy bosom lies there dead, and Paris too. Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Stay not to question, for the watch is coming. Come, go, good Juliet. I dare no longer stay.
Go get thee hence, for I will not away. What's here? A cup closed in my true love's hand. Poison I see hath been his time to say, no churl, drunk all, and left no friendly drop. Note to help me after, I will kiss thy lips. Haply some poison yet doth hang on them, to make me die with a restorative. Thy lips are warm.
Lead boy, which way?
Yeah, noise. Then I'll be brief. Oh, happy dagger! This is thy sheath, There rest and let me die.
Wow, it's, it's really emotional, isn't it, that that was the last one. I might even cry. She is starting to wake up. Yeah, not long after Romeo was there, maybe a couple of minutes, a couple of, maybe 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And she asks, "Where is my lord?" So that's the first thing she says. She thinks that the friar is comfortable, and she thinks, "Where is my lord?" So she's got two things on her mind, Romeo and the plan, basically. Then we see, to be honest, a bit from Friar where he just seems like a bit of a coward, and I think he's selfish, and we see that he's full of hubris as well, in my opinion. "Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns." He's only just found the bodies, and he's only just got to her, but he's already got a plan. He's already got a plan to get himself out of the poo, basically. He's got an idea that, right, okay, this hasn't worked. What can we do now? Okay, right, I'm going to get rid of you, and I'll put you into a nunnery, and then no one will ever know you're there, and then we'll, we don't have time to talk about it. Stay not to question, he says. Kind of just trying to fix everything. He's trying to control fate, and we all know that that does not work. And he also says again, "Come, go, good Juliet, I dare no longer stay." So, again, he's not in it for them, really, because if he was, he'd probably stay, bring her with him. But he gives her an idea and says, "Right, when you can, come and find me." And he's going to try and run off now, because he dares no longer stay. Really? Really, Friar? Really? It only takes one line for him to go, "Okay, fine, bye." She says, "Go get thee hence, for I will not away." He doesn't try and convince her, but he goes off. So she sees that the cup is in Romeo's hand, and she sees that it's been his timeless end. Yeah, that hyperbole, timeless, that Romeo is more than just a human. He is a timeless thing that is perfect and kind of omniscient, almost like a god. He is holding this thing, and she says, "Churl, he's drunk all and left no friendly drop." Both Romeo and Juliet have both used potions to try and fix their problems. They've used the potion for her to fake her death and the potion for him to kill himself. All right, so she sees this drop as friendly, the poison as friendly. She's wanting an out. She's wanting a way of, of dying as well. That there's no friendly drop, that even a drop of the poison would be friendly to me because it would help end my life and be with you, Romeo. She kisses him and she says, "Thy lips are warm. He has only just died." Okay? And again, she doesn't check, but also they hear the watch coming in. So the watch are kind of like, we'd probably call them police now, but watch guards, watchmen. And they hear she hears noise outside, "Lee boy, which way?" And she hears the noise, and she's very, very brief. She doesn't go on a whole little soliloquy like Romeo does. Okay? She just does it. She says, "Yea, noise? Then I'll be brief. O happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rust and let me die." So we got the oxymoron straight away. Happy dagger. Yeah? And we're seeing a lot of oxymorons throughout this play, actually. So she calls herself the sheath. She says that, this is where you belong. This is where you should be as a dagger. You should be in my heart, taking my life. And then she says, "There rust and let me die." So she's talking to fate. Yeah? That, dagger, you need to let me die because that's where you're going to rust. I'm not going to take you out of my heart. This dagger is going to stay in there. It's almost like she's talking to fate that, this is how it's going to end. And think as well that he drank a poison. And obviously that wouldn't be a nice thing to do, to die. But she stabs herself in the heart. That takes a huge amount of emotional and, physical strength. So she's had a much worse time of it than Romeo. She has had to literally stab herself in the heart and bleed out and die. The friar talking about the violent delights have violent ends. 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, so we've had these two really kind of violent scenes with Paris being killed and Juliet stabbing herself, and also the death of Romeo within a really short frame, kind of 10 minutes. So then a bunch of, policemen and watch guards and stuff come in, and they just find the scene. Then they say, "Here's Romeo's man, we found him in the churchyard. Hold him in safely till the prince come hither." So they're talking about the friar. So they've seen the friar trying to run away through the graveyard, and they've gone, "You there, stop!" And they take him in and detain him. Okay, so he says, "A great suspicion, stay the friar too." So this is very suspicious. Keep the friar here. We need to talk to him. We don't know what's going on. So then comes in the prince. As per, after these kind of big events, the prince turns up. Again, as I'm going through this, you're going to want to pick out certain quotes for certain people and certain language choices. I'm just going to do the kind of the real core ones, but again, you should be thinking about other ones too. Capulet and Lady Capulet come in too, and they learn, people have been screaming about Romeo and Juliet and Paris in the street. What is going on? And everyone's running towards our monument, our tomb. So they find out the news, and Capulet says, "Oh heavens, oh wife, look at how our daughter bleeds." Think about the present tense of that. She is still bleeding as they're looking at her. The blood is still pouring out of her. This is a fresh death, and this is a horrible thing for them to see. Even though, yes, we question whether they were really upset about her dead, but, even if they weren't, they wouldn't want to see her like that. And it is a real tragic way to go. And again, we see a similar thing to what Juliet said, that, that her body is the sheath of the dagger. And Capulet kind of says that, oh, the dagger has mistaken his house for my daughter. That, oh, this is awful. And obviously, then we get the juxtaposing views between father and daughter too. Now then comes in Montague, Lord Montague. Notably without Lady Montague. And he says, why, pretty soon, he says, "Alas, my liege, my wife is dead tonight." We're going, whoa, why? What happened? "Grief of my son's exile hath stopped her breath." She's died of grief, and only from the news of Romeo's exile, which was a while ago. Now remember, this is, again, this happens in a very short space of time, so we can assume she's had some sort of heart attack or something like that. But this is another death that Romeo is responsible for, that his actions have caused another death. And if you tally him up, which I'm going to do down there, we're now up to 6 deaths. He's been responsible or had a part in playing 6 people being killed in 4 days. Yeah? Because we're now on Thursday. This is Thursday morning. And it started on Sunday. This is, when I say, the tragedy really is expanding, and it is getting worse and worse and worse. And this is one of the final blows we get before the reconciliation between the families. And I think Montague's kind of, we've not really had much to do with him. We've not kind of been inside his life as much as we have with Capulet. It's almost like he's lost the most out of everyone. He's lost his wife and his son. We see that he really cares about Romeo in Act 1, Scene 1, and that she really cares about Lord Montague too. She cares about her husband. So not the kind of dishevelled and awful kind of marriage that we're seeing from the Capulets, but we're seeing a kind of a more honest family and a more caring family too. So it's almost like the biggest tragedy in the entire thing is Lord Montague, that he's had to put up with this, and he's suffered the most. I think that kind of brings us to the idea that, that maybe this is a play about, the unheard being the biggest sufferers in any tragedy. That it's the ones that you don't hear from, it's the ones that you don't kind of see on centre stage that often can be the most, the most hurt by the actions. Now, obviously, this all happens in front of Capulet, and this may explain why Capulet is the one to extend his hand first and offer an allegiance between the two families. Obviously, he sees his son dead, and the prince begins the investigation. What's going on? Bring forth the parties of suspicion. Someone just tell me what's going on. What happened? And that's when Friar sums up the entire kind of plot, basically. Again, I'm not going to go into details of this, but you may want to pick out some semantic fields and some emotive language and character perspective, and kind of, he does take responsibility in this part. I'm just not going to go into it too much. He sums up all of this. He says, "I'm the greatest able to do least, yet most suspected, as the time and place doth make against me of this direful murder." So he is the best person for it. That's superlative. He's the best person for the job, and he's the one that's about to tell the story. He's kind of taken the role of Benvolio from Act 1, Scene 1 and Act 3, Scene 1. Yeah, where Benvolio was the one who told the prince what happened. He was the trusted one. Okay? And obviously Friar would be seen as someone who's very much trusted, even though he's now in kind of a suspicious scenario. He talks about everything is true, or he needs to be, sacrificed and killed. Very, very similar to how Benvolio said it as well. And if you remember, Benvolio is never seen again after Act 3, Scene 1. So the prince is given the letter that was supposed to get to Romeo, and it confirms everything that the friar has said. And then we get this one, look. Capulet, Montague, see what a scourge is laid upon your hate, that heaven finds means to kill your joys with love. And I, for winking at your discords too, have lost a brace of kinsmen. All are punished. Now that is a really good quote, that one. Just 3 words that kind of sum up this play. It's almost microcosmic of the play. All are punished. No one gets out of this any better off. Even the prince, who is not on either side, has suffered greatly. Yeah, he's suffered by having his cousin Mercutio killed, and Mercutio's kinsman Paris killed as well. And not only that, but also his city has been disturbed for God knows how long. And all these elements are all punished, and that you cannot escape kind of sanction as well. That you cannot escape fate and punishment. So then we get Capulet, who says, "Oh brother Montague, give me thy hand." So we get the first time that they actually extend a hand to each other and they offer some level of peace. And he even says, "Look, that this is my daughter's jointure. For no more can I demand." So this is exactly what our children have done, and we can't ask for any more than that, because they've already done it for us. Montague says that he will raise a statue in pure gold of Juliet, and Capulet says that he'll do the same. So think about why people have statues. Statues are there to glorify people, that this is someone we should look up to and is a great person. Yeah? So they're going to be symbols that will eternally be there, and they're in gold as well. The most, they're using their wealth to show that these people are important. Maybe missing the point, to be fair, but it will be a permanent reminder that actually this war, this ancient grudge, is over, and that these are the two that stopped the war. Now, the very last part. Prince talks about how there's a glooming peace. Okay, so he talks about how there is this oxymoronic idea that this mourning is peaceful, but it's gloomy as well, because it's had to come from such tragedy. It's had to come from such a dark place. Yeah, and he also says the sun for sorrow will not show its head. That actually, do you know what? Right, it's a gloomy time, but we need to move on now. We need to actually think about what is going to happen now and moving forward. The prince is looking forward and not focusing on the past, which is exactly what the families have been doing for however many years this ancient grudge has been going on. And he finishes, and this is almost kind of a little sonnet between the Lord Montague, Lord Capulet, and the prince at the end. If you look at the rhyming scheme, it's an interesting one. He says that for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. That we've never seen anything more tragic. And obviously that all links to the title, the original title, The Most Lamentable Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. And that is it. That is the play. So we've seen this prologue completely be realised and understood and explained, and that is the ending. I've seen a lot of you kind of send me notes and stuff, so thank you very much for that. I know you've all been kind of working very hard on this, and don't get me wrong, I've not been making it easy with these videos because I've been going into a lot of detail. But yeah, well done for completing. Boom. Any other questions, let me know. See you soon. Bye bye.
No outtakes. Yeah, no.
There's absolutely going to be outtakes. Why are we even pretending?
Interred? Interred?
Where are we?
Before Ladies Paris in London. Interred. Interred? Interred, sorry. And that lean
I do defy thy conjugation. Conjugation, not conjugation.
This is the word. Thy lips are warm.
Lead boy, which way?
You can't do that. This is a really dramatic scene.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's like a kiss on camera, isn't it?
Before we get past the labor meeting.
Something the first. Do you want to make noise again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You die in the fight.
I'm just gonna stab you out of. God's sake, no, sir. Oh. Is there someone there? It's you again.
Right, take two. We're all going to be movies.
I didn't know where we were starting from.
I was trying to add link.
Is there someone there?
How's the table?
You just fart in my tomb. How dare you desecrate my tomb? That's disgusting.
That was such good acting as well.
Oh, it was really good, sorry. It just reminded me of the previous line.
Anus.
Anus.
Okay. Is it me?
I missed a line.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Just, yeah, sorry. In faith I will. Let me pursue. For God's sake.
Open the tomb. Lay with me, Juliet.
It's lay me with. Otherwise, you're implying you're going
There'll be no laying here tonight.
Lay me with Juliet.
Sorry.
I hate you.
We can have a little bit of a fight first.
So,
Physical theatre. Okay.
I'm covering my breasts.
You can edit it.
Sorry, you'll have to edit that.
Whose page? You're dead.
Who's paying?
Why are you laughing?
It's a lot of things.
Amateurs.